Hey guys, welcome back. I am doing HotS Thoughts number 4 today. And today I'm going to be talking about Tassadar. Before I get into that, I want to first bring up two things. First of all, today is the opening day of BlizzCon opening week, and then we'll be playing the group stages for Heroes of the Storm tournament in about an hour. So make sure you tune in, watch. I'm going to be watching it all day and having a TeamSpeak party with friends. So really excited about that. I made a video just before this one with BlizzCon hype, so you should definitely look at that if you haven't already. Lots of information on the teams and know what's going on. Also, you should definitely join us in the live report thread on Team Liquid and just comment as the games are going. It's a great way to stay in touch with people and get questions to answers to questions when you need it. So that's the first thing. Second of all, is I just installed professional video editing software. So from now on, my videos should be a lot better quality. They've had a lot of problems with dead space in the audio, as well as some of the first frames weren't quite getting deleted correctly. But I now can do anything I literally want. It's amazing. So I'm excited to use that. I'm probably going to be producing a lot more videos of much higher quality from now on. I don't have a logo or a banner yet, but I'm still working on that. So when I get that together, I will definitely post that and probably start my own collection, my video collection thread on Team Liquid, and it'll look really nice and fancy. So I'll get to that. Anyways, so the topic for today is going to be Tassadar. And the reason I picked Tassadar is because he's been on kind of a roller coaster ride of changes recently. And I originally, with his last set of changes, I was like, oh, rip Tassadar, he's going to suck. But he's actually been quite amazing, and he's become one of my favorite heroes to play in Heroes of the Storm. So, I just want to go through some of the most recent changes and talk about what that changed for him and how that made him probably the most powerful he's been in like a year. So, starting at the August 18th patch. So this was August 18th. The Oracle trait was nerfed a bit. I don't know what their rationale behind that was. So they nerfed it to 40 seconds, and now it's a 20-second cooldown if you get mental acuity. Not a big deal, but it was just kind of a strange nerf. The big thing here is Plasma Shield. Mana cost was decreased, and Psystorm, the mana cost was decreased. Now, Tassadar used to have a lot of mana issues in the early game that he forced him to pick Conjurer's Pursuit so that he could actually like compete going into the mid and the late game. Now he can sustain himself quite well in lane, and he doesn't run out of mana with just like 3 storms and 2 shields. Like he continues to be relevant in lane. There's also a bit of a talent rework here and some other stuff, but that's not important. The big thing is mana cost decrease, okay? So, fast forward to October the 6th. This is the big changes that completely moved him away from a super hyper carry support to an actual support. It used to be like way back in the alpha, if you took Archon, you would just press the R button and become God for like 12 seconds, and nobody on the other team could kill you, and you would just wipe out their team. It was ridiculous. So they kind of have slowly been moving him away from that by decreasing the damage on his Archon and the damage on the Storms, and starting to try to push him into more of a support role. So, first of all, like in the last one, we have another mana cost reduction. So this is really big. It was originally 60, now it's down to 40. The shield amount was actually decreased overall, but because it's increased by 50% when cast on allies, it actually ends up scaling more and healing for a lot more. Or shielding for a lot more, rather. After, I don't know the exact level, but I'm pretty sure it's like level 7 or 8. After that, it scales a lot better. Actually, no, I think it scales even at the base level. It's just better. It's just a better heal. It's overall a huge buff. And then this is really, really huge. The cooldown reduction, or the cooldown was reduced from 8 to 5 seconds. So consider like a 25-second period. In the past, he would have only been able to shield for 3 times. He would have been able to shield 3 times total. And now he can shield for a total of 5 times in those 25 seconds. So with the additional shield amount plus the mana cost reduction, that's a huge amount of shields that go up in a pretty short period of time. So he can keep people alive pretty significantly well. It's actually a pretty major buff there. Other thing is leeching plasma. Leeching plasma got a huge buff from 20 to 30%. So it's now excellent if you put it on any kind of auto-attacking hero, like Illidan or Sonya, or even Raynor, or any Vala or any kind of ranged characters like that. It's excellent on basically anybody who auto-attacks a lot. And even if they don't auto-attack, it's still great for them. It's great even on yourself, because if you're shielded and you start attacking, you can sustain yourself. So it's a pretty big thing. And this is really the nail in the coffin for damage Tassadar, is they nerfed Archon's basic attack damage by a further 20%. So it's essentially nothing now. His basic attack damage is awful in Archon now. And it's made, through making Archon almost unviable, they've made Force Wall kind of the go-to talent now. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So overall, what we're seeing is a big movement from Tassadar as being really, really, really high damagey with some utility, things like Mule and Promote and things like that he had built into his talents, to more of like an actual support role where he is constantly shielding and not relying so much on his damage to kill things. Mind you, his Psystorm is actually still pretty good. In the early game, it's not impressive, but once you get to like level 14 or 15, he clears waves in one Psystorm. So it scales really nicely still. So going on to talents and most common builds. So I'm just going to tell you the most common build right now is Conjurer's Pursuit at level 1, Leeching Plasma at level 4, Allah's Embrace at level 7, sometimes alternatively Deep Shift, Force Wall at 10, Prescience at 13, Dimensional Warp at 16, and Storm Shield at 20. So the reason why we take Conjurer's Pursuit at level 1, the reason why that's the most taken thing is just because even though Tassadar has less problems with his mana in the early game, it still can be somewhat mana consuming, and in order to scale into the late game, he really still needs that Conjurer's Pursuit. Of course, there are exceptions where Reinforced Structure is a little bit better on maps like Haunted Mines and Garden of Terror and Dragon Knight. Reinforced Structure is definitely a solid choice still. Leeching Plasma is taken at level 4 because it's just absolutely incredible. There's really... the buff to it just like put it over the top. It's actually incredible. And the fact that you can shield so many allies so quickly now makes a big difference on how effective the Leeching Plasma actually is. Alternatively, you can get Mental Acuity occasionally, but it's seen a little bit less often, and only really in cases where you have to track a Zeratul or a Nova a lot. But mostly it's a non-factor. Allah's Embrace is my personal new favorite talent in the entire game. It makes it so that when the Plasma Shield expires, 50% of the shield remains indefinitely. So what you can do is during downtime, you can just walk around and shield your allies with You know, after like level 10 or something like that, it costs basically no mana because you're with Conjurer's Pursuit, you have plenty of mana regen. So if you cast a Plasma Shield on all of your teammates, they have an additional like 150 to 150 to about like 300, 400 shield that they just go into battle with, and that's a pretty big deal. That makes a huge difference going into fights, and essentially works. I don't want to say it works like a heal, but it works somewhat like it gives them a little extra tankiness. It's a big deal. So that's my favorite one. Sometimes people will get Deep Shift. Deep Shift combined with these level 13 and 16 E talents do quite a bit in terms of making him completely godlike. I'll talk about that when I get down here. Force Wall is now usually taken at level 10. Force Wall is absolutely one of the most incredible heroics in the game because you can kind of zone out and chop up the battlefield the way that you want it, and it makes a really big difference in coordinated team fights. So one of the things that you can do, probably the most common thing when you think of Force Wall is, all right, so Vala gets like really far up and out of position, she gets stunned, you force field behind her, and then she just gets mauled by your team, right? So, because she can't run away. That's the most typical use of it, but you can also use it to cut off the backline from bruisers that are moving forward. You can also use it in terms of just kind of funneling people into areas that they don't want to be in. So even if it doesn't necessarily block off like an entire area, you can still cast it in such a way where someone is either forced to walk a way that they really don't want to walk because they'll be really out of position, or they'll have to take a long time to get back to where they need to be, or they'll have to walk through your team or like bruisers, like your tanks and things like that. So there's plenty of uses for it. We haven't seen a lot of it used so far. There was a little bit of Tassadar with Force Wall played in the Training for BlizzCon tournament, but we didn't see like, oh my gosh, this is such an amazing talent. But in my own personal play on ladder, I love Force Wall. I think it's one of the best heroics in the game, and it really allows you to control the battlefield. Moving on, we have Prescience and Dimensional Warp. Prescience basically makes it so that you have 3 total escapes because it activates automatically. It activates your E, Dimensional Shift, automatically when you fall below 15% health. So combined with Dimensional Warp, you also gain 50% and heal for about half your health per time your E goes off. What you can do with Prescience is if you start to get low, you can press E and kind of duck out of the battle and then come back in. And then once you start to take damage, it will activate Prescience and you'll move away from the battle again as you heal up. And then you can come back in. And then if you start to get low again, you have yet another escape from the activated Prescience, or sorry, the activated Dimensional Shift again. So just so that's a little bit more clear for you guys, you activate Dimensional Shift, and then you come back in and let the passive go into effect, and then when that wears off, you can use the active again. That's 3 total escapes, and it makes him basically unkillable. And if you combine it with Deep Shift, it makes him so that he can travel pretty much across the map and never die, even if he's caught out several times. A great example of this is DK versus Snake in the semifinals of the OGN Super League. You can see that Snake really tried to they tried several times to catch Sniper's Tassadar out of position, but they were just completely unable to do it. Like, he just kept escaping over and over and over, no matter how much CC they poured onto him and how much they were able to catch him out of position. So it makes him really tanky. I go for full E talents like this if I want to play almost like a tank for the team. Call's Embrace, of course, I love that way too much to give it up usually. But even then, just these 2 talents combined make him incredibly tanky and incredibly good. Evasive shielding can be quite good, especially if you have heroes like Artanis and Illidan, who kind of need to move fast and stick to people. That's an excellent thing. Distortion Beam can be pretty good, depending on, but these two talents together are just absolute gold. So most people are still picking these two together, especially in the higher levels. Storm Shield. The reason we get Storm Shield over Rewind doesn't really do anything useful for Tassadar, and Force Barrier doesn't vastly improve Force Wall. So Storm Shield is usually a little bit better, and it just helps support everything a little bit better. If you do decide to go for Archon, some people will go for Archon in pro play even. I don't really like Archon all that much, but if you do, I think it's absolutely mandatory to get Static Charge now. Before you did it because it would just like boost your damage to the roof and you'd be amazing. Now it's necessary in order for damage from Archon to be useful at all. And you also have to take Twilight Archon in order for the damage to be that good. If you get Static Charge along with Twilight Archon, you'll end up doing a pretty decent chunk of damage at level 20, but still nowhere near the level that it was at before. People still usually take these two talents. Like I was saying, Distortion Beam and Evasive Shielding are pretty good, but these two talents together are just so good, even if you do try to go for a damage build with Tassadar, using the Archon with Static Charge. This just gives you so much survivability when you're not in Archon form that it's just worth taking. It's just worth taking. So that's basically a breakdown of everything that Tassadar does. The main point that I want to get across is Tassadar has moved kind of from a mega ultra super scary damage person with utility to more of a support, and I think he's actually the strongest he's been in a long time. So at BlizzCon this year, I think we're going to see quite a lot of him. He's probably not going to work as a solo healer. Some people have tried that in professional games during the HTC Brawl and in the Training for BlizzCon tournament. They tried doing solo Tassadar, and that just didn't really pan out all that great. It was kind of messy and didn't look beautiful. There have been some attempts at Tassadar Tyrande, which is pretty decent now that Tyrande has the new and improved Shadow Stalk with the healing. But that also looks a little bit messy. It might just be because teams aren't coordinated enough to know how to juggle that correctly. But I think he works quite well with Medic, and he works quite well with Karazim. And I think we primarily will see him in compositions that either have they're centered around melee heroes that do a lot of damage. Things like Butcher compositions, Illidan compositions, Sonya compositions, Kerrigan compositions. Things that center around a melee assassin that basically is designed to just kill the rest of the other team. We may also see him, I think, in Triple Warrior compositions. He's quite good in Triple Warrior compositions because he provides that extra bit of utility, and he himself is also tanky. And I think that also synergizes quite well with Karazim. So I think those are all really good things, all really good possibilities. Other than that, he probably won't see too much play, but I think those are the kinds of supports or the kinds of compositions we're going to see a lot. He might be run in a couple of double healer compositions. Like I was saying, he's quite good with the Medic and Karazim. He's less good with some of the other ones, but it's going to be really interesting to see how he gets used and innovated in BlizzCon. And I honestly, with how powerful he is right now, I'm actually expecting probably above a 50% pick ban rate for him in this tournament. I'm really excited to see him, and I think he's going to be used a lot. So basically, just keep your eye on him. That's pretty much everything I have to say. If you have any comments or questions, let me know down below. I will be watching BlizzCon all day today and having a TeamSpeak party, which is going to be exciting, and writing an article at the end of the day. So, if you guys have any suggestions for future articles, just let me know. Until then, I'll see you guys later. Bye.